So happened that Pappy Lewis's family contained some of the finest football talent of the 50s. Quarterback Fred Wyant led the charge in some of the strongest backfields in West Virginia history. They operated behind a virtual brick wall of protection, featuring stars Bob Orders, Gene Lamone, Chuck Howley, Bruce Bosley, and Sam Huff. Huff, number 75, played the game with a pure intensity and a simple philosophy. Whether on offense or defense, the object was the same. Just beat the man in front of you.
He was an individual that would never say, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. He could do everything. Rosie Greer in those days was probably the biggest defensive lineman. And Sam Huff handled him like he was a little puppy dog.
Sam, you can depend on him. You can say that he's going to be there all the way through. You know, he's going to do his job. He was an outstanding gentleman, and when he got out there on the football field, he was all football player.
One of the greatest to ever play the game, Huff was named All-American in 1955, but he wasn't alone. Line mate Bruce Bosley, number 77, also earned All-America honors.
Keep your eye on the right tackle. He's Bruce Bosley, All-America tackle from West Virginia. Coach Art Lewis thinks Bosley is the best pass defense ever invented. Big, fast, and rough, all that a tackle ought to be.
Bruce Bosley could simply do it all. He was a punishing blocker on offense, as well as one of the nation's best pass rushers. In 1955, Bruce Bosley became the Mountaineers' first consensus All-American since Eret Rogers in 1919. Behind the power of Bosley, Huff, and company, the Mountaineers made a gallant run for glory. Running backs Jack Stone, Tommy Allman, Bob Moss, and Joe Marconi all tore up big chunks of yardage for WVU. In 1951, the Mountaineers scored a record 89 points in a single game against Geneva College. And the 1952 season featured a stunning 16-0 shutout over Pitt. But there are two accomplishments which stand above all others in this era of excellence. From 1953 through 1955, the Mountaineers put together a remarkable run of 3 consecutive victories over Penn State, a feat no other West Virginia team has ever accomplished. In Game 1, Fred Wyant and Bob Marker hooked up for a dazzling 64-yard touchdown pass that put West Virginia on top. But it was Bruce Bosley blocking a fourth-quarter punt and then recovering the ball in the end zone that put this game out of reach.
The next year, the score was 19-14, I believe. That was the only time I never thought we could win a game. There were no two-point conversions, and they had 14-6, which means we had to score 2 touchdowns. That day, there were 9 of us that went 60 minutes playing both ways. And I said, I really don't, to myself, not to anybody else, I didn't think we could win. And we got the ball in the last quarter and scored 2 touchdowns. Scored on a quarterback sneak. That made it 14-13, and then we came back and on an option play from 42 yards out, and Dick Nicholson ran 42 yards for a score. Lenny Moore tackled him on about the 1-yard line, and he drug him in, and it was probably one of the most exciting finishers if you ever. Jack Fleming was up on the stand, his desk up there, screaming at the top of his voice.
In 1955, it was all the Mountaineers as they crushed Penn State with one of the nation's best ground attacks, winning the contest 21-7 and ensuring their place as one of the greatest West Virginia teams of all time. Rivaling that 55 team was the class of 1953, who, following an 8-1 regular season record, were invited to play in West Virginia's first major bowl game, the 1954 Sugar Bowl versus Georgia Tech. It was a team that moved West Virginia University into college football's elite, but the triumph of that season turned into frustration on game day.
New Orleans and Sugar Bowl highlights. Georgia Tech versus West Virginia before 75,000 spectators. 20 yards through the air and on the ground for the rambling wrecks of Georgia Tech, sparked by Pepper Rogers, Tech quarterback.
It was the big game, one of the big games, and nationally televised in those days and what have you. And you know, we were so elated, it was unreal. And you know, it was the first time they ever had gone to a major bowl. And then to lose the way we did, but it was a very, very disappointing and just a tough situation to cope with.
It was written that Pappy Lewis had tears in his eyes following the 42-19 defeat. The Sugar Bowl bid was the crowning achievement of his glorious 10-year reign as head coach. This second golden era of Mountaineer football ended when Lewis resigned in 1959. But the legacy of his Mountaineer teams of the 50s reaches far beyond Morgantown, stretching all the way to the NFL. West Virginia Pitt, a feud so fierce it is simply called the Backyard Brawl.
It's never going to change. You know, it's like the Hatfields and McCoys, and we don't like them and they don't like us.
Pure hatred, boy, that can add some sparks to the football game, man.
West Virginia lined up to go. There's a fake. Hostetler keeps the ball, rolls around the right side into the end zone to score. Hostetler with a great fake. He carries it around the right side. He takes it in the center.
The whole state lived and died on who was going to win that game. And there are people that, people that literally can't say anything nice about Pittsburgh, period.
I remember a Pitt coach one time said you could take a Chicago Bears and put Pitt uniforms on them, and West Virginia would play them a good game.
Beginning with an 8-0 West Virginia shutout in 1895, this rivalry has at times reached the intensity of an all-out war. Old-timers still remember a pair of legendary 9-6 wins in the 1920s. And former head coach Gene Corum will never forget the sensational 63-48 victory in 1965, one of the greatest collegiate games of all time.
We came into the game, and of course, we thought it would be a cliffhanger and reasonably low-scoring game. We had no reason to think it was going to be a high-scoring game. But the first 3 times we got the ball, we scored. But then Pitt kept working back, and it seems like both teams we would hold for 2 downs, then something would break loose.
Running back Garrett Ford, number 32, rushed for over 200 yards and 3 scores that day, while quarterback Alan McCune threw 5 touchdown passes in one of the wildest Saturday afternoons ever in Old Mountaineer Field.
Our scout, who was scouting the next team, I don't recall exactly where he was, but he was in a press box scouting our next opponent. And of course, he was interested in getting our Pitt score. And the kept coming in 28-27 in the second quarter, or 35-34 beginning at the half, or some such chorus. And he said they kept sending back, please send corrected score.
The unbelievable final score of 63-48 went down as the highest scoring Division I game in history. But more importantly for the Mountaineers, it marked another sweet victory over arch-rival Pitt.